Hey, welcome back to Explorer. This is your host, Jonathan Nathaniel Hayes. Today we have a very cool guest, Jim Deprez from Iditarod EDU. He is the co-director, and we talk about Iditarod, we talk about teaching, and we talk about some big news that Iditarod EDU has for those of us living on the coast here in the northeast of Canada and the United States. So stay tuned, check it out, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, Jim, how's it going?
Not too bad. How about you yourself?
Good. Where are you on the planet right now?
Right now I am just outside of Columbus, Ohio. I'm on spring break right now, so trying to enjoy a little bit of nice weather before it starts raining. So.
Oh, we've got 12, I kid you not, 12 to 15 inches coming Friday here in northern Maine. So, yeah, and I almost at this point, I mean, you know I'm a musher. I love snow, but at this point, the season's over. I'd almost wish it would just come as rain and wash what we have left away so that we can start the summer with a clean slate, but here we are.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I just finished mowing my lawn for the second time already, so yeah, a little different.
How did you adjust coming back from Alaska after running around Alaska for the Iditarod?
I mean, at this point, I'm kind of used to it. So, pretty smooth transition. I mean, I was flying all day Sunday. So I had to leave the day of the restart, but, I just need to get back to the classroom. And then, so yeah, I was back there first thing Monday morning, and hopefully, I'm glad the kids were, pretty easy on me that day. So a little tired, but it's still a great day.
I've been blessed. My school district has tolerated my mushing passion. I've gone to Alaska twice, once for the Centennial Expedition last year, which I was gone for a month and a half. And then in 2022, I think it was 23, January of 23, I think it was, I spent some time training and racing out of Mitch Seavey's kennel. And so both of those times, they were gracious and let me go and got long-term subs for me. But yeah, I hear you. When you come back, it's like, jumping out of a hot tub into an ice bath or vice versa.
Oh yeah. Definitely thrown right in there. Yep.
So, for those who don't know, those who are listening and don't know who you are, what is your official position with Iditarod EDU? Like, what's your title?
I am the co-director of the Iditarod Education Department.
Okay. And before we dive into that, because I have a lot of questions for you on that, can you tell me, I saw that you taught, was it North Carolina or South Carolina?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background, start with your teaching and then how you stumbled from the deep South onto mushing.
Yeah. So, oh boy, where to begin? Yeah. So I guess I'll start right out of grad school. Got my master's in early childhood education from Ohio State. Um, I ended up long-term subbing for a teacher just south of Columbus. She had maternity leave. I actually ended up subbing for her 2 consecutive years back to back. And that was honestly my first exposure to Iditarod at all. I'd never really heard of it before then. I mean, I knew it was a sled dog race in Alaska, but other than that, that was about it. And she kind of had a full month-long unit during the month of March for her second graders. And both years that I subbed for her, I just saw how much the kids absolutely loved it. And so I knew that she was really onto something with this whole Iditarod thing. And so then I ended up going to North Carolina and taught there for 7 years. That was the first time I got my own classroom. I taught there and had 3rd grade, 2nd grade, and 5th grade. Just different years, kind of jumped a little bit, but always kind of took what she did with her second graders and adapted it to whatever grade I was teaching down there, which was really cool because I found the same results across the board. The kids just were drawn to it. So, um, yeah, I was there for 7 years, and then had our first kid down there, and um, wanted to have another, but also knew we wanted to be closer to family. So my wife is from the Cleveland area, so we moved back here to Columbus, and I bounced around a couple different districts here, and finally settled in Hilliard, which is the town we live, which is great. So I'm on the same
That
schedule
is
as.
that pretty urban or rural?
We're a suburb of Columbus, so it's a pretty big district. I think we got like 14 elementary schools, 3 high schools, and I mean we're just still still growing, still expanding. So, yeah, been here ever since. Love Hilliard, love the community, and have been teaching third grade ever um, since moving back here, and yeah, it's been wonderful. And so, yeah, that's kind of my teaching background. Like I said, moved a little bit all over the place, but yeah, love where I am now. So,
So, as you know, I'm a middle and high school teacher, 6 through 12. I'm curious, like, walk me through, and I'll preface this by saying, I think that Iditarod EDU would actually, that sweet spot is the elementary grades. It is a little more difficult for me in middle and high school to get the kids as excited about it. But tell me how you incorporate it into an elementary classroom. Like, what do you guys do?
um, well, kind of depends on the teacher. It kind of depends on curriculum, and if you're in a district that has a pretty strict, like, guided curriculum, then it can be a little tricky to work it in. But I'm able to do it within my science and social studies blocks, mostly my social studies. And I really love doing, like, getting the kids engaged with the race. So, like, um, we will have the kids, of course, pick their own musher. They will follow them using the GPS tracker that Iditarod Insider offers throughout the race. I always like to, however, start my unit actually teaching about the Serum Run. We have Balto here in Cleveland, which is really cool. So that brings, like, this distant race in Alaska, really brings it home to us here in Ohio. I've actually had a few students go up and visit Balto, after learning about him in our class, which is really cool. So that's where we tie in the social studies, is with the Serum Run, and talking about the history of mushing, not the Iditarod, but mushing in general. Um, and really that story, that connection to the dogs saving the children of Nome really hits home with them.
Mhm.
And from that moment on, they're hooked.
Mhm.
So then, the whole following the mushers, like I said, during the race, um, having the kids write letters to their mushers. We do different map things. Sometimes we do the postcard program, so the kids learn about our state of Ohio, send off the postcards to other states around the country that are also participating, and just really love to learn about other states that way. So Iditarod is a really great tool to kind of run the gamut of all subjects, really. So
Yeah, you can teach geography, uh, history. Those are the ones I think that are the most easy to tie it to, especially with younger kids. I'm a life science teacher. I teach biology and life science, anatomy, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's a little bit more of a stretch, to be honest, because
yeah,
um, you know, I also begin with the Serum Run story, but then I have to talk about Arctic ecology and caloric burn of what different kinds of food they're feeding on the Iditarod Trail, and how all of these formulas, and dividing them up into teams with mushers and having them create kind of like a mock drop bag day where they're creating the feed bags that are going out for their team, and then I kind of, both with, just the math and what little knowledge I have of having to pack for distance races, kind of judge who's got the strategy and the supplies to get them to Nome without, excessively spending money, and who's starving their team to death.
Yeah.
uh,
Right. Yeah.
so that's kind of the thing that we do here in our classroom, and it's kind of cool. You guys have you have an Iditarod teacher on the trail, and if I remember right, I think seeing in your bio, you were actually the teacher on the trail twice. Is that correct?
That is correct. So,
Can you tell us what that is and then what your experience was?
yeah, absolutely. So our Teacher on the Trail program has been going on for about 30 years or so. I forget exactly what number our newest Teacher on the Trail will be, but I think it's I think she might be number 29. And so, yeah, with our Teacher on the Trail program, it's open to teachers all over the country who use Iditarod as a teaching tool in their classroom. And then there's a pretty significant lengthy application, which we're trying to dial down a little bit. But, once the applications are sent in, we as a team kind of take a look at those, and 3 finalists get invited up to the ceremonial start, the start of the race, the week before the actual start. So we run a week-long education conference in Anchorage leading up to the race, where teachers really get to see kind of like the behind the scenes and how the Iditarod works, and hear from a lot of the volunteers, mushers, vets, you name it. And so they're a part of all of that. And while they're up there, it's kind of like what we call, they're on like a week-long interview type of thing. So while we're doing that, we're kind of seeing how they interact with people. They have to give a presentation and do a lesson in front of the group and that sort of thing. And then from there, we kind of reconvene after everybody gets back and the race is over, and we make our next selection for our next teacher on the trail. And so that's kind of the process of how it's chosen. But the job itself is probably one of the biggest life-changing moments that I've ever had. The teacher then not only goes up for that week-long conference, but they stay out and are on the trail with the mushers for the entirety of the race. They're flown by bush plane or small commercial planes to some of the different checkpoints along the way. They get to do some absolutely incredible things. This year, our teacher, she got to fly with dogs, which is always a highlight for everybody.
Drop dogs?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. She went out to White
I know they don't call it drop dogs anymore, but they have a different name for it now.
Yep. Yeah. So she back flew to White Mountain from Nome, and then back to Nome with, some of the return dogs from the race. She got to, and one of the newest really cool things, that the teacher gets to do is actually hand the red lantern to the musher, the last place musher coming up off the beach right down Main Street. So that's always an incredible highlight for the teacher on the trail, and it's a pretty big honor, just to have this position, because the entire time that they're on the trail, they are putting out posts on the Iditarod EDU website every single day. They're putting out either a lesson plan or at least some kind of prompt that teachers can use based on what's going on in the race, what they've seen over the last 24 hours. So every year it's got a little different twist to it. So, and I mean, every year the race is different too. So it's always kind of cool to see what the teacher comes up with based on what's happening that year in the race.
Yeah, what's happening in the race, and also what their background is, right? Like if one
Absolutely.
teacher has a propensity towards science versus history, that kind of thing, I can see how that could really play in. Um, can you give us some examples of like what one of those, daily prompts from a teacher would be? Like what kind of stuff you guys usually see from the trail?
Yeah. So I know, like, I can speak from what I did when I was on the trail. So some of my prompts were based off of like one of the things I did was every year at the finish line and also the start has different country flags hanging next to the big banner right up there on the start line. And so, kind of getting kids like, oh, what do you think those are for? So using that as kind of like a prompt tool, again, like we talked about with the geography stuff. Um, so the kids understand that it's not just like in a like a United States, Canada only race type of thing. It's actually an international, it's a global race. And so starting to learn about some of these other countries where some of these mushers came from. And so tying it in that regard, there's a lot of different math that is always done, with, for like elementary, for example, we do a lot of like multiplication with, for example, like dog booties. So if you have a team of if your team right now has like 15 dogs and you need to pack enough booties to get them to the next checkpoint, and how many are on each dog plus how many
Mhm.
spares you're going to bring, multiply by 4. So there's just little things that can be done each day, kind of like I said, depending on where you are, what they got going on, and what they're seeing in the race.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things on the middle high school level. I'll ask the students, why did you cut the meat that you sent to these last checkpoints so much? And they're like, well, we're following our racer, and our racer is only down to 10 dogs. And I'll say, did the racer know he was going to be down to 10 dogs when he got to that checkpoint? So, playing these little games with them and getting them to, really think ahead and what logistics look like. I know from our Centennial expedition last year, logistics are huge, especially for a race like this that has so many mushers. What's the vibe like with the Red Lantern musher? Like, what's the feel? I know we get so much coverage of the top 5 or top 10, but what's the vibe in the town, and what's the feel with that musher? I think that's a really unique that's a unique part of the story. I was talking to some folks here at the Can-Am, and just talking about how everyone in the race is part of the story. The people at the front and the people in the back. So what's that vibe like in Nome when that last musher comes in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's the final musher. They're coming down, the main street there, and they are just fist pumping. I mean, it looks like Jesse when he's winning, type of thing. Like they are just as excited to finish the race.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's incredible. So like, not only taking the Red Lantern all the way down underneath the Burled Arch in Nome, and then, having, their final bag checks done, having, the whole town come out because they'll blare the siren, for each musher as they get closer to town, so the whole community can come and support every musher as they finish, which is awesome. So it's a lot of fanfare, but then especially for that final musher, with the Red Lantern, but also then extinguishing the widow's lamp that's been hanging on the Burled Arch for the entirety of the race is pretty significant too. It's a really cool visual symbol of the end of the race. So I I personally love the Red Lantern, and I think it's just a really, really cool, really special award that, this race does. And I know some of the other races do as well. So, but yeah, it really shows. And for me as a teacher, I think it's a great teaching tool because it shows, yeah, this person's in dead last. They know they're going to be last. They're freezing. They're probably not too happy about still being out there, hungry, tired, the whole 9 yards. But, they still have that determination, that grit, that, not going to give up, accomplish your dream attitude. So, and they still finish. And so I personally really love the Red Lantern Award
Yeah.
for that reason, because it's a great teaching tool. So,
I know it's super cliche, but just as you know, just the sheer determination it takes to get to the starting line of this race
oh, yeah. Oh,
is
yeah.
epic. And then to finish it is, to finish the race is a great accomplishment in itself. I've always wondered though, is the Red Lantern, is it an electric Red Lantern or is it an oil red? Is it a real traditional Red Lantern or with oil and fire in it or?
I can verify it is a legit oil lantern. I had to fill up the oil. And, that was a little nerve-wracking doing that the first time, but yeah, no, it is a legit Red Lantern with oil, fire, and the whole 9 yards. So
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
What do you guys? I know. It's well known that usually in our field, most teachers on average, will lean toward the more left side of the political spectrum, and then there's on that side, there's often a lot of criticism of dog sports and animal sports and horse activities and that kind of thing. Have you had any trouble in this position, like trying? And all of that's born from ignorance, obviously. I mean, the Iditarod has veterinarians at every checkpoint. These dogs are, you know, you can't. You can't push a rope, as they say. These guys have to want to pull, and their nutrition is better than mine. As someone who likes to go through a drive-through on occasion, these are premium athletes who get fed like premium athletes and cared for like premium athletes. And I think there was Mitch Seavey and I, we were talking, and I think there was a study done that showed that um, that a dog statistically was more likely to die sitting on a couch in a house in Anchorage than it was on the Iditarod Trail. That some studies were done to show that, I mean, these dogs are so healthy, so well taken care of, that statistically a pet in a home is more likely to die than one of these dogs on the trail. Do you guys have to have you had to deal with that? I mean, maybe educating people. And when I say ignorant, I don't mean that they're stupid. I just mean, ignorant of the facts, of the reality of, these dogs' passion for running, their care, and all this stuff. Is that a big part of what you guys do at Iditarod EDU, or?
It's definitely a piece, yes, because there's always two sides to every story, every argument. So we get it. I always like to address it fairly early on with my students. And I kind of take the initiative in leading that conversation and point out to them that some things are just tragedies and there's no explanation for it. Things just happen. I mean, a lot of the kids have, had a grandparent that passed away and something like that. And so they understand that, yes, a grandparent might be a little different because of just general old age type of thing. But sometimes it's just inexplicable what causes, a person or an animal to, just not continue. So it's something that we do discuss, but it's something that I make sure my students understand that the number one priority for this entire organization is the care of dogs. And that's, from the very top all the way to each individual musher, they will echo the same sentiment. Dog care is the top priority because, as you said, these dogs are special. These are the top athletes. I tell my students all the time, I'm like, this is like the LeBron James of dog
Yeah,
mushing, but
absolutely.
his name's Freddie. So whatever. So, so they understand that connection, and they do understand that, things happen during the race. And so, I did talk to my students about when we did lose the one dog this year during the race, and how hard that was,
Yeah.
not just for them, like the students, the kids, but how hard it was for the musher.
Oh, of course. Yeah, for sure.
So, it is something that we do talk about, but we make sure to also inform the students and everybody that, of all the different steps that are taken to ensure that the dog's health is top
Mhm.
priority, like
Mhm.
the vet checks, pre and pre-race, during the race, the vet books that travel with the teams all the way down the trail, and just the extent of the pre-race, checkups and that sort of thing
Yeah.
is just really impressive. So, you
Yeah.
know, but again, things happen and it's unfortunate, but
It
you know,
really is. And going and these are not fun numbers, but you go through these numbers, and I did it once, and I'm gonna make a fool of myself if I try to do the math right now. But if you have, let's say, uh, if you have 24 dogs in your kennel, and the average lifespan is, I'm just playing with numbers here, 12 or 14 years old, then, statistically, you're going to lose two dogs in that kennel a year. And that's really hard. In 30 years of mushing, in 30 years of mushing, I've had one dog pass away in harness, and I almost quit. Like it took me the entire summer to decide that, I still wanted to mush. That dog loved mushing. It was what it lived for. And, it's crushing. I have a friend a couple of years ago was a rookie in the Iditarod, and he lost a dog, and it was even hard to get him to talk about it. He was just so brokenhearted that it was a long time before he got to a point to where he would even consider the possibility of running dogs again, because it just so heartbreaking. So I can't imagine what this year's Iditarod musher went through. So yeah, I was just curious to know if you guys get any, more of the, AR, pushback, and whether that's more or less than it has been. It seems to me that people are kind of starting to balance back. The pendulum's kind of swinging back to understanding that, working dogs and athletes, they're passionate, they love what they do, be it horses or dogs, or these animals that have worked with us for thousands and thousands of years in this symbiotic relationship. That they're as passionate about it as we are. Actually, there are days when my dogs are way more passionate about it than I am.
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So, for me in this position, this is only my second year in this role. And so I can't really talk to like the trends and that sort of thing. There has, yeah, we do get some pushback here and there, which is understandable. So, um, but it's something that, is kind of expected. And so we just continue and try to do our best to educate the people out there that are, you know, willing to listen and help kind of support the sport. So,
Yeah. So with you at the helm of the ship, or co-helming the ship, what's new? What's on the horizon? What are you guys excited about?
um, we are most excited about, well, for me personally, is we are actually going to be headed your way. Our summer education conference is going to be in Maine this year, at Poland Spring, which is going to be fantastic. So, still lining up some speakers and some presenters, and yeah, we're looking at July 21 to 24 this summer. So, hopefully people will be able to attend.
Is that strictly for educators? Is it an educators only
It is
conference? Okay.
it is an education conference, yes. So, but we're open to any type of educator, public school, private school, even homeschool parents that are interested in, bringing this into their homeschooling. We're all for it. So, yeah, we are excited about that opportunity. And that's something that I've really tried to push a little bit, is trying to increase the outreach of the EDU summer conference. And so we've had a couple different summer conferences in different locations around the lower 48, as it's called in Alaska. So, we started out in the UP of Michigan, and then last summer we were out in Idaho and teamed up with the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge, their race. And that was incredible to get out there and just to see how that race functions. And so this year, yeah, we're hitting up New England and going up to Maine, and hopefully going to have some people from Can-Am talk to us a little bit about their race, because I really think it's important to try to draw in some of these qualifying races and get especially the local community more interested and excited with those local races. So
Well, there's a
that's kind
couple there's a couple principals who are now retired who
of,
both here in the region who helped to found the Can-Am, and one of them I chat with almost daily. He was one of the founding members. He ran the Can-Am several times, and so if there's anything I can do to help promote it here, or find some good educator slash musher speakers to help out. I think his name's John Coletta. He's an awesome guy. But yeah, everyone who's listening, if you're in the New England area, if you teach a Sunday school class,
really.
whatever it is, you can, as long as you're an educator, this would be a cool thing to come to. And as Jim started out, our listeners might not know, you've got Balto. You said there in Ohio, Balto ran the last leg with Gunnar Kaysen into Nome, and where you're coming here in Maine was the final home and resting place of Togo before he was mounted and sent up to Alaska, and it's the original home of Leonard Seppala's first breeding kennel after his run in the Serum Run. So there's a big bronze statue to Togo where you're going to be doing your conference. So that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, that was one of the big draws for bringing the conference there. I always try to tie in some kind of mushing history, and so this was perfect. So
Yeah,
yeah,
very cool.
glad we were able to make it work out.
Very cool. Well, I guess I would have had to have been in Anchorage the week before the race to be considered for next year's teacher on the trail. So I got to get my act together, man.
Yeah, yeah, we're revamping a little bit of the application as we speak for 2028.
All right.
So yeah, we're just in the final stages of selecting the 2027 teacher on the trail for next year. So
You already know
yeah.
who it is. Why don't you announce it here? I know you know who it is. Come on, come on.
I will absolutely do that when it's official. Yes. Still
All
waiting to
right.
go back. So yeah.
No breaking news here. No breaking
Yeah.
news. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time out with me today. How can people follow Iditarod EDU? Where can they find you? Where can they reach out to you? All that jazz.
Yeah. So we've got our own kind of subsection of the Iditarod website itself. There is iditarod.com/edu, which you can, like I said, get to from the main page. We do also have a really strong following on Facebook, just Iditarod EDU. And on Instagram, it's Iditarod Education is the handle there. So yeah, social media, website, we're We do also, I want to plug, I'm not on TikTok, so I'm not that familiar with it, but we do have an Iditarod EDU TikTok as well, which is fantastic. So, and it's constantly growing. So lots of social media options out there. And if you want the latest news on things like the summer conference, winter conference, any of the programs that we run during the school year, those are the places to hit up first. So
Very cool. So if a teacher in the Northeast wants to get to this Iditarod EDU conference, they just reach out to you guys through the social medias.
yeah, or through my email contact, which should be available right there on the EDU website.
I'll share that in the show notes if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Well, thank you for giving me your time.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great. Really appreciate it.
For sure. All right. God bless.
All right, you too.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, I ask you to subscribe, to like it, to share it with your friends, and drop us a line. Let us know what you think. All right. God bless.